What's up, guys? Welcome back to a special episode of the Craftavore Tastes. It is going to be episode 2 of what I dubbed previously as Cellar Divin. And basically, it's going to be an episode where I dive into something from my cellar. So, not exactly the most creative name, but whatever, we're going to go with it. So, this is pretty much installment number 2. If you watched installment number 1, which featured a 2014 Prairie Noir, you'll remember that it was an absolute unmitigated failure. Yeah, that beer was uh, completely infected. I was worried about it. I remember reading on Beer Advocate that it was. I was hoping it wasn't. I figured it'd be funny if I put it on video just because I'd look pretty silly, and sure enough, boom! Mission accomplished, man. So, but it's all good. So, hoping here that installment number 2 of Cellar Divin is a little bit better. And the beer we're diving into for episode 2 of Cellar Divin is none other than Goose Island's Bourbon County brand Stout 2014. Yeah, so been cellaring this for 4 years. And I don't really remember if there's anything particularly remarkable about this vintage. The first time I had it 4 years ago. The one thing I do know about this vintage is that it was the last year that Goose Island released Bourbon County in 12-ounce bottles in 4-packs. They've since then moved on to that that 1 pint 0.9 fluid ounce or 16.9 fluid ounce bottle. Pros and cons for both, man. Like I thought when they moved over to the bigger bottle, I was gonna kind of hate it, and obviously the 12-ounce bottle is awesome for you to just kind of do, have one yourself, you know, in December or January in front of a fire. But that bigger bottle was kind of cool too because it was just a little bit better for sharing with someone else. So I often found myself opening up those bottles when we were doing a special occasion and I had a friend over that maybe had not had it before. So anyway, pros and cons for both of those bottles. Yeah, super stoked to get into this one. So let's go ahead and go through the drill, man. Let's go ahead and get the cap off this guy. We'll take a look at the appearance. We'll get the aroma, we'll taste it, and then we'll rate it. All right, so super stoked. Let's go ahead. Actually pulled this out of the fridge just about, I don't know, 25 minutes, half hour ago, so feels pretty decent. Maybe a little higher than 55 than I would like, but should be all right. So let's go ahead and give her a pour. All right, put this right off to the side. The good news is that I'm already getting a little bit of that barrel character, and if you remember from the first installment with the Prairie Noir, I knew something was off the minute I opened it. Not the case here. All right, so let's go ahead and obviously take a look at the appearance. I mean, yeah, it's Bourbon County, right? So completely jet black. You know, about completely as dark as night. Can't see through it whatsoever. What's kind of interesting is that I kind of remember even this vintage being a little bit more viscous, but I'm not exactly sure. It does seem a little bit thinner than I've had in years past. Head is completely dissipated off this guy, but yeah, I mean at the end of the day, let's see if we can maybe just kind of move it around a little bit, maybe get ourselves a little bit of a head. Yeah, all right there. So we got ourselves that really kind of beautiful, rich, almost borderline like, deep brown reddish kind of head going on here. So, yeah, I mean, it is Bourbon County. It's an absolute beautiful beer, dark as night. Looks excellent. So let's go ahead and dive our nose into it and get an aroma. Oh, so yeah, still carrying a nice bit amount of that barrel character for sure. Obviously being 4 years old, I was a little bit concerned, right? You may see some of that barrel character kind of drop out, right? And you may see, a bit more of kind of like fudgy, kind of chocolatey kind of notes maybe rise a little bit to the top. But 4 years later, and it still kind of has that traditional Bourbon County barrel character going on, mixed in. Nice big notes of kind of vanilla, Getting a little bit of, obviously, not only like the barrel character from actually the bourbon in and of itself, right? So a little bit of booze on that nose, but then obviously a bit of oakiness from the actual wood as well. Yeah, it's all those great things: vanilla, tobacco. Yeah, even kind of like essentially 4 years in now, you're even getting like a little bit of a sense of like almost like dark, like super like dark fruits, like a date or something like that. Yeah, but vanilla, tobacco heavy, bourbon, oak. Yeah, just absolutely awesome. Smells amazing. Let's go ahead and give her a taste. Cheers. Yeah, so what's interesting in that taste is, yeah, that in the taste, you still got that kind of bourbon note that's going, but it's a lot more kind of subdued and a little bit more mild. It's lending itself obviously a bit more to, that vanilla and chocolate and kind of roastiness kind of coming to the forefront, which is kind of what I expected, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, when you have Bourbon County, when you first, if you actually open it like a, quote unquote fresh bottle, right? Usually it always released on Black Friday, or at least has been the last number of years, and they're usually bottled like around July, right? So if you open it up right when you kind of purchase, there's a tendency sometimes, where it's coming in pretty hot, right? Where like it's super kind of booze forward. 4 years obviously has toned down that kind of booze level pretty significantly, as I kind of expected, but it's layered itself in there where it's just kind of super mellow, and that bourbon, and that bourbon barrel note is kind of sitting there really, really nicely. And then you're getting a lot more kind of vanilla, kind of tobacco, almost dark fruitish kind of taste really kind of coming to the forefront. So going back in for another, I mean, this is great. Yeah. One thing I will mention is, and I don't know, I'd actually have to kind of look back whether or not I felt that this vintage was a little thinner than I have in years past, because I am kind of noticing that in this particular, in the 2014 vintage, I do feel that this is slightly thinner than I would have remember from Bourbon County. And I don't know. I'd have to do a little actually, back end research, like maybe look at Untapped, or, maybe even get on Beer Advocate or something like that. See if people kind of felt that the 2014 version was a little bit thinner than any of the other, more recent kind of vintages, or, vintages in and around that time period. Because I honestly don't remember, and I didn't really want to kind of look back to see what I thought about it. I wanted to obviously have kind of just a bit of an unmitigated kind of review, just to say, here we are 4 years later. What are my thoughts, right? I don't want to kind of be biased in any way. I'm going to go back ahead and give her another taste. Yeah, but it's got all those traditional Bourbon County qualities. I don't know if the 4 years on it, like I can't remember, like, struggling to kind of get a little bit of a head here. It's just dissipating kind of like really, really quickly. I don't know if, 4 years on that is going to have something to do with that. I'm not 100% sure. And frankly, as I said, I don't remember if head retention was one of those things that, in that year, maybe I picked up on. All right, so at least it wasn't infected, so we got a success for installment number 2 of Cellar Divin. Let's go ahead and give this one a rating, man. I'm going to give it a solid 4.25. I think it's hung on pretty darn well over 4 years' time. I am kind of knocking it down a little bit, just simply based on the fact that it does, the perception of it is thinner than I do remember in more recent vintages, and then vintages around that time. At least that's how I'm perceiving it today. But it's held up really, really well. In fact, a lot of those flavors have kind of really melded together, where there's a lot more balance going on there than, what you may expect if you're having something from a fresher bottle. So, obviously Bourbon County ages extremely, extremely well. Yeah, I mean, 4 years, it tastes freaking awesome. I wouldn't hesitate, holding on to another one for 4 years, to be perfectly honest with you. I know I got a bunch in here for, I can't remember actually right now how far they go back, but I know I could do a pretty awesome vertical if I wanted to at the moment, and I probably will get into that at some point. But, hey, if you're still holding on to some of these bottles, 4 years in now, pop a top on them one. I think they're holding up pretty darn well. I mean, maybe give it another year, and I don't know. Maybe if you're trying to build a vertical and you want to build it another year or whatever, do that. Just know that obviously 4 years in on the 2014 version, at least for me, holding up pretty darn well and is still damn awesome. So 4.25 caps for the Craftavore Tastes for the 2014 Goose Island Bourbon County brand stout. That'll do it for this episode of Cellar Divin. Hope you join me again for another episode where we don't have an infected bottle and we can drink, review, rate, and then repeat. Cheers.